and lo and behold, that guy has pooped down his legs all over the balcony.
He'd shit down his kecks. He'd shit down his leg. He was in a world of pain.
Hey, how are you? Welcome back to episode 3 of World Still Spinning with the Wonton Don and Steed.
How are we?
We're doing great. It's been a while. The last time I saw you, you were eating shrooms and about to head to a full moon party in Thailand. So how did the rest of your trip in Thailand go?
How did that? I don't even know how that podcast went because I remember talking. I remember it going really well, and then I'd eaten. I bought like a bar of mushrooms. It was a chocolate one. I've even got some chocolate mushrooms. Are these from America? And it was 3 grams. Now I know about 4 or 5 grams is way over what you should take. But I thought, right, I'll have half of that before I see Donnie. I didn't think it was going to kick in so quick. And then as I'm munching on the other half, halfway through the podcast, it just went woomph. And I was like, oh shit, I'm in trouble here.
The shrooms are starting to kick in on Steed's end.
How you feeling there, Steed?
John, you know what? I'm not going to lie. The world's moving.
Mm-hmm.
The world is still spinning. It's spinning in many, many different colors as well right now.
It seemed to me the shrooms kicked in at the perfect time because it was towards the end of the podcast, and I think I was in the middle of telling a story, and I could just see your eyes getting bigger and bigger. And then after I finished the story, you were like, yeah, mate, I'm on another planet.
Wow. About 1 hour after that, we actually walked up the road to get this tuk-tuk. Now, if you're not familiar with a tuk-tuk, especially on the islands in Thailand, it's not a tuk-tuk like Bangkok. It's a big, long tuk-tuk that has about 10 people on. So I was the only one on mushrooms, and I was just like, oh, my God. And then he stopped. He's like, I'm just going to get these 2 people on. And this lad and a girl, really good-looking girl, really good-looking lad, they got on, and I had a glance down the tuk-tuk. And they started talking to us. They said, oh, we are from the Czech Republic. And we're getting on with them, Sam, but I'm at the top. I'm just like, I don't need to speak. All the other people are on stuff that makes you want to speak to people. I was on 3 grams of mushrooms, and I was just like, no. And then I heard these words. We're not really from Czech Republic. We are from Israel. So, mate, I thought Mossad were on my tuk-tuk. I'm on mushrooms. I thought Mossad had finally caught up with me. And I was like, what's going on? And then the guy stopped again, and he brought on 2 Thai ladies of the night. And they had all this technicolor stuff going on. And then mushrooms, I was just like, maybe I'm too old for this these days. I don't know. Like, these mushrooms really, really whack me. But then when I got on the beach, it was sound. I had a few buckets. There was all this music going on, and I opened up, and it was really, really cool. But yeah, I had a tough time the first hour of those mushrooms, mate.
Yeah, when you're on shrooms, you don't really like to meet new people. It's nice to just take them around, folks you know.
I wanted to tell you just one thing that happened in the full moon party. I was a big, massive guy, dead muscly, dead big, and all he had on was this pink pair of shorts, this tight shorts, and these angel wings. And there's a lot of guys from the Middle East who are in Thailand at the moment. Like, it's obviously very easy for them to go to Thailand, and they've walked past this guy who we hadn't spoke to, and he's like 5 feet away, 6 feet away on the left, just enjoying himself. He's got these angel wings on. He's obviously gay, but he's this massive guy. And these Middle Eastern guys go past him, and they're giving him a load of shit and they're poking him. And he was huge, and he could have just gone snap and snapped them all. And he's just like, so I've thought to myself, you know what? And I've said to this guy, you know what, mate? Whoever you are, don't let them put you down. You be whoever you want to be. I think it's fucking great that you're here enjoying yourself, being who you want to be, having a laugh. Like, the world's all connected, and I'm on a load of mushrooms. Everyone's on this level, like, blah, 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 love colours, blah, blah. But the world's still spinning.
Yeah.
And he says to me, I'm from California. I'm like, oh, mate, that's fantastic. I'm from Liverpool, like, blah. And he's like, can I tell you a joke? I was like, yeah, mate, yeah, like you can tell me a joke, and I must stress this isn't my joke. This is this gay guy from California with angel wings, and he says to me, "What, mate? We're on a fucking beach in Thailand. We're on the full moon party," and he goes, "What's better than being in the Paralympics?" I'm like, "Mate, I don't know, I don't know," and he's like, "Not being a fucking retard." And I was like, mate, I've just stepped in. I was like, oh, like we've got to go, boys. We've got to go back up this other end of the beach. I can't be near this weirdo. Like that was his opening line.
And yeah, you were just trying to help him and be like, you should stand up for yourself. Like, don't worry, don't feel bad if those people made fun of you for being gay. And then he just immediately drops a zinger on the R words.
I mean, not even like stick up for yourself because you know he looked like he really could, but I was like, mate, you've just been the object of someone picking on you, and then when I've stepped in and said like, mate, don't worry about it, he's gone full circle. It's like, fuck, California, probably never go. Weird people.
Yeah, we'll have to ask the audience if they thought that joke was funny or not.
Yeah, I must. That wasn't my joke.
I could write like a gay version of that joke, but I'm not going to do it live on Broadway.
Go do it.
You know what's better than a lead role on Broadway? Not being a fucking F word. that
I think you're gonna have to maybe cut that. I think you might have to cut that.
Well, no, it was just me trying to do a play on that. And obviously, there's nothing wrong with being gay, and there's nothing wrong with having a lead role on Broadway. And I just want to do a disclaimer. Not all these people are bad people, but they're either like the strangest people we met abroad, or yeah, there are some legitimate bad people on the list too.
Wait, I also want to preface this by saying, it's only let me send one at a time. I also want to preface this by saying that I hang around with a nice bunch of people, and we always did, and we never allowed racist, misogynist. I'm not talking about cancel culture. We just didn't hang around with a bunch of weirdos, and we
hung around with a bunch of weirdos, but they weren't racist or misogynistic weirdos. So this is one of the people who I wouldn't say was a bad person, but he just had an unfortunate accident, and it could happen to any of us. So this was probably the first week of me knowing Steed. Or was this like the first night?
Really?
Yeah. This was maybe my second time hanging out with you. So we met a fellow British expat hanging out at a pub in Guangzhou. I'd known Steed for only a week. And as you would usually do, we all went back to your apartment after the bar for an after party. And those could go till 4 a.m. to the following night. This guy showed up. He was clearly drunk, and I think on some other substances as well that he kept on indulging in once we got back to your apartment. And so we're all hanging out in the living room, and all of a sudden I hear one of the girls there shriek and look out to the balcony. And lo and behold, that guy has pooped down his legs all over the balcony.
He'd shit down his kecks. He'd shit down his leg. He was in a world of pain. That kid.
Yeah, he was wearing shorts, so there was just a brown streak all down his leg, and then a couple like plops of poop on the balcony.
The plops of poop were huge. How did they even get it was like, what's going on?
And so everyone was just inside laughing at him. He's out on the balcony. He still hasn't even realized he's pooped himself. And I'm like, all right, I got to go and let him know so we can get cleaned up. And I was like, mate, I think you shat yourself. And his response was, nah, mate, that's not mine. He just refused to believe. I don't blame him. That must have been really traumatic. I felt so bad for him, and I was like, guys, I know this is hilarious, but like, let's try to go easy on him. I think it's time for him to go home. And so I'm like walking him out of the apartment, and I was like, don't worry, mate. It happens to the best of us. And I think it was you. You're like, yeah, when we're 7. And like everybody in the room starts cracking up.
And then that's when we just didn't see him again.
I think we did see him again, though. And he was like, yeah, I put in my 2 weeks at work. I think he realized, he was like, yeah, I'm just known as the guy who shat on Steve's balcony now amongst all of the expats in Guangzhou. Like, I need to go back to the UK and just start a new life.
Do you remember, he'd only been there as long as you've been there. And do you remember Rachel, the Scouse girl, Daz's bird? So Rachel's in some meal, and she come back the next day, and she was like, "Oh my God, I was talking in this meal about this kid on the balcony who'd shat his pants." And she said he looked up, it was like a school meal, and she didn't know he'd started working in school. And she said she looked up, and he was like, "Yeah, that was me."
He didn't even shit his pants. It seems like all the shit just went on your balcony. So his pants.
Man, yeah, I mean, remember the cat? Remember the cat that I got? Like, I think I got the cat the same time I got you, and that ginger cat just started eating that lad's poo.
Oh my God!
Like, I think I've sent you a picture of the cat with you as well. So if I haven't, I'll send it now. The cat pic.
I feel really bad about this, but I submitted a few of those pics before I was working for Barstool. We had a website called Barstool U where they would just share funny stories, and I sent them in some photos and the story of the guy shitting the balcony, and they posted a blog about it at one point. I don't know if the blog is still up, and I was like, God damn it, if that guy sees this blog. Next up, we're going to be talking about DJ Spenny. I did do a video about him. Look it up. It's on my old YouTube page. Have you ever seen the video I did called Donnie Does Shanghai's #1 DJ?
Yes. I watched that from Guangzhou thinking to myself, should I move to Shanghai?
Yeah, so when I arrived in Shanghai, there was this British dude who apparently sold his company back in the UK and made like $15 million, didn't have to work the rest of his life, and decided to move to China and become the city's #1 DJ. Now, he wasn't officially like ranked #1 or anything, but he had the money to just make all of these posters that he put all over town, and he would rent like 10 Chinese models for the day and just take a bunch of photos with him and just scantily clad Chinese woman, and then in big words on the poster would say DJ Spenny, Shanghai's #1 DJ. And then he was the resident DJ at this fancy nightclub in town. And just by looking at the poster, I was like, all right, this guy seems like a bit of a wanker. But then I started to hear stories about him too. Like, he was in this softball league there, and he would roll up to every softball game with like 2 women on his arm, and was like so proud of his team. Like, he won the home run derby a couple years in a row and just would like have the trophies hung up in his apartment.
This is my most prized possession. Fucking won the home run derby. It's my brother. I am the kingpin.
Everyone was like, this guy's a huge prick. And then my buddy happened to be invited to his maybe 30th birthday. I don't know. And he was like, I'm allowed to bring friends if you want to come. And I was like, I need to meet this guy for myself. And we showed up with a camera guy, and he was pumped because he just like loves the limelight. So when he heard that, like
the trainees video where you had a load of shoes on the
I stole his shoes. I stole his shoes at the end of the party.
Kiss my trophy. I won't kiss my balls.
Gladly steal your shoes.
Just kiss my trophy. Show me how much you want it. Show me the money.
Hang on, son. I won't kiss his trophy, but I will steal his shoes.
And so he loves the limelight. So when he heard like some guy was going to show up and film a video about him, he got like very excited, was performing in front of the camera all night. And yeah, he's on camera being like, I've banged 1,500 Chinese girls.
The count of 3, let's say how many Chinese chicks have you banged? 1, 2, 3, 30. God damn it, Spenny! You're showing me up on my own TV show.
And he's on camera showing off his home run derby trophies. And yeah, he didn't come off great in the video. And when I put it out, he was like, oh shit, this guy just made a video just making me look like shit. I thought it was going to be a fluff piece.
I brought you 3 beers and Fanta.
But I can tell you one thing, I don't drink beer. I only drink vodka and gin and tonic.
You don't drink beer? Come on.
Look at my body, mate. I'm like a temple.
I think because of that video, he had to rebrand. So he went from DJ Spenny and then had to rebrand as Spencer Tarring. We'll throw in a few clips into the podcast because it's a rare case where we actually have the footage of them.
That's got to be done because I'm going to be honest and say, when you moved away, I wanted to give you space and time to do what you need to do in Shanghai. So I didn't want to be on your case. So, how are you doing? What's your day? You know, I like to message. I like to like WeChat and you were doing your thing. And I seen this video and I thought, what kind of fucking people is Donnie hanging now in here? Like, why have I let him go to the... I thought, like, he was one of your good mates.
No, to
this day, I've wanted to say to you, what the blazes were you doing with this DJ Spenny? Like, oh my God.
The guy knows how to throw a party. Hey, it was a nice party. At one point, though, he had a Harley Davidson, or he had some sort of motorcycle that he just kept inside his apartment, and he has a stripper pole in his apartment as well. So we had some girls working the pole, and then he brought out the motorcycle, turned it on inside, and just started to rev it. Breathing in the fumes, it makes me feel like I'm alive. And the entire apartment just filled up with fumes. I was like, I'm breathing in fucking motorcycle fumes, dude. Like, it's not that cool.
Like, you know what? That's the thing where we live. Well, where I live, you're gonna get found out. People are gonna after a week or 2 or 3 weeks or whatever, you're gonna get found out in this place. You can't pretend to be this or this because there's so many people from here, there, and everywhere. Like, I've got Iranian mates, I've got Iraqi mates, I've got mates from Chile, like, what's that called? Where are they from? Costa Rica, Australia, Norway. Like, you're gonna get found out by someone. Someone's gonna say, nah, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not the place to pretend you are an international DJ if you're actually not.
But hey, if you have $10 million, you could probably start some sort of career, because he was paying for collabs. If you have
$10 million, you're not going to go and launch a DJ career in Shanghai, are you?
It's probably not. It's probably not.
You're not going to go in your apartment at a Harley Davidson in an apartment in Shanghai. You're going to be on a boat somewhere.
I would like to know what he's doing, because because he was paying for actually well-known DJs to collab with him and trying to make it big that way.
DJ Spenny, if you're watching this,
come
on the cast.
Dude, I just found his profile online. Spencer Tarring is a self-made entrepreneur with a reputation for his no-nonsense, straight-talking attitude. He has a track record of starting and selling multiple tech businesses and establishing himself as a seasoned veteran in the industry. He's got a Spotify page, so if you guys want to check it out, feel free. Dude, he probably has Google alerts on for his name, so he'll most definitely end up watching this podcast.
There's something called Google alerts. I'm so
a Google alert, just if your name is mentioned, like in an article anywhere, you'll get an alert. So
have you got Google alerts? That must be pinging all the time for you.
I do not. My dad has them on, so he'll always hit me up about
you or for him?
No, for me.
So I'm imagining your dad's name doesn't get mentioned a lot, though. Just
not
you.
A bunch, no.
Wait, didn't I meet your parents in Macau? And you were in that green suit. I think it was the time you snuck into the Manny Pacquiao fight.
I totally forgot about that. So if you've seen the video of me sneaking into the Manny Pacquiao fight, Steed was at that fight, and I think it was you.
I got you your ticket?
Yeah, you got me the ticket. So we were sitting together way up in the nosebleeds, and I was like, Steed, these seats are not going to work for me. I'm wearing a fucking green suit. I just want to see if I can get down.
Think of the douchiest, most casino-esque name you can think of, and start telling all the security guards that he's your father and he owns the place.
My father's like Ricky Petruccio. He owns the Venetian.
it's kind of a big deal.
That's guaranteed to get you past at least the first level of security.
And then the next thing you know, I'm literally in the ring with Pacquiao.
Including Alex Ariza, and congratulated him on a tough fight. Tell me about that.
Yes,
You did it for the Peens, Pacquiao. You did it for the Peens.
Created. Your era's not over. The Pacquiao era is not over before the fight. Do you think that you proved that point with this fight, and who do you want going forward?
Out of here.
First,
I actually had a video of you working your way down, and I was sitting next to Abby, and I was like, I don't think he's gonna get. Oh no, he's got through that security detail, and Abby's like, he's getting all the way to the ring, and I was like, nah, no way. And you're just going down, and each security detail, you just walk through like you own the place, and then the next thing, you hit the ring.
That was the weirdest night because I don't think they know this, but because the game was in Macau, the fight was in Macau and not Las Vegas, it started at 10:30 in the morning. So I was in Hong Kong. I took like a 4 a.m. boat to Macau, and I remember meeting up with you at a club at maybe 7 in the morning. So we were just like raging at a club 7 to 10 and then went straight into the fight.
I think I'd gone straight through. And I told my wife to meet me at like 8 or 9 in the morning, because obviously she's not going to party all the way through. But I think I'd gone straight through like casinos and parties, and yeah, met you. I think we were in some street. You were like, I'm here. I was like, I seen this guy in a green suit down the road, and I was like, yeah, that's him. Come on.
I lost the green jacket. I'm very pissed off about it. Well, I have one more short story about a guy, and then we can see if you have a few names to throw in the ring.
I have two, and I don't know whether to just say one or two, because one of them's really bad. The other one's like a guy's fucked up, but one of them's really bad. So you go first, and then I'll decide which one.
Okay, this one's not really bad. I used to throw events in Shanghai with this guy who went by Shanghai John. He was from the U.S. I don't know his backstory too well, but he had this giant tattoo that just circled his belly button that said International Playboy or something like that. So I knew that, like, I was like, all right, this is a weird dude, just if you're going to get International Playboy around your belly button. And he was a very odd guy. Didn't dig into his past too much, but this one time he showed up and he was like, just got engaged with my girlfriend. Like, and we're like, oh, we're so happy for you. How'd you do it? And he was dating this Ukrainian girl, and they were just in bed. She was sound asleep. While she is sound asleep, he just puts the ring on her finger and then wakes her up, and he's like, surprise, we're engaged. And she was like, you didn't even give me the option to say fucking yes or no. And he was so proud. And then he showed up with his Ukrainian girlfriend. He was like, yeah, we're engaged. And you could tell she was just like, what the fuck? I did not agree to this. Just woke up with the engagement ring on. And yeah, I think they called off the engagement maybe 6 months later.
I knew a fella, I don't know if you remember him, guy called, I'm scared to even mention his name in case he comes back.
You can use a
Jason.
fake, mate.
Jason? No, his name is Jason, and he was from one of the Carolinas, and exactly how you'd expect him to be. And he'd been in the army, and he was obviously troubled. He'd done a couple of tours in Iraq, and he'd married a Chinese girl who we'd never seen. But he walked around with a bag of crystal meth and a bottle of Baijiu at all possible times. It was when we lived in Lijiang. So there was like a little expat community there, wasn't there? There was a few Wygorens, there was a few foreigners there. And so we got mates with him, and he'd come round, he'd have a few drinks. But he was obviously troubled. And then he phoned me up one day and he said, you owe me $1 million. And I was like, Jason, I mean, this guy was scary. This guy was big. He was fucking hard. He told us he'd done black ops and all this stuff. And you know me, I don't really get scared of many people because a lot of people have a lot of bluster. But this guy actually really fucking scared me. And
he was constantly on crystal meth.
Mate, crystal meth, like how he taught in a university, I'll never know. He used to complain about the wages. He'd come round and he'd like, they're only paying me this.
It's like, dude, you're teaching them on crystal meth. Like, you
On
shouldn't have a
crystal
job.
meth. I mean, there was so much stuff available, as you know. So he was on crystal meth all the time. So he phoned me up one day and he said, "Look, you owe me $1 million for that bet." It was when England played USA in the World Cup, not the last World Cup, like 2 World Cups ago or something. And he's like, "We bet $1 million on the game." I was like, "Jason, fuck off." I said, I don't even like the World Cup. I'm from Liverpool. He's like, "I'll fucking show you." And then about 2 days later, there's a knock on my door. And I looked through the little hole. And I turned to the tall guy. And I'm like, "Fuck, it's Jason." And he ran to his bedroom and locked the door. And I've opened the door to this Jason guy. And you know what? Like, I'll tell you after. But at the time, he walks in with this vest on, all these tattoos showing. And he's got a fish tank, a machete, and a towel. And I'm just like, what the fuck, bro? Like, seriously. And he's like, "I need to speak to you." And I was like, "Oh my God, like I've got no defense mechanisms against the machete or against the towel going around my neck or against the fish tank going over my head." I was thinking I literally thought he was gonna chop me up and put me in the fish tank. And he starts saying, "Where's my motorbike?" I was like, "I don't know where your motorbike is on about. I don't know where your motorbike." And I'm trying not to laugh. He's like, "I parked my motorbike and I can't find it, so I know you've got something to do with it." I was like, "Jason, seriously, mate, I've got nothing to do with your motorbike. I don't know where your motorbike is. I'll go out with you and try and find it." And then he's like, "Do you know what happened to me last night?" He's like, the floor above was shouting, "Death to America, death to America, death to America." So he's gone out of his apartment and he's gone up the stairs and he started trying to kick this door in. And he said he can hear him shouting, "Death to America." And he's trying to kick this door in. And after about 20 minutes, whatever, the police come. And they've said through the door, "This is the Chinese police, open up." And it's a little old woman who's sitting there frightened for her life. And Jason's like, "I realised that they weren't shouting death to America. It was just a little old woman sitting in an apartment doing nothing." Like he was that like messed up.
That's the crystal meth. That's
the crystal.
Yeah.
So I said, "Look, do you want to go out and look for your bike, or do you want to?" He's like, "Well, before we go look for my bike, what about the $1 million you owe me?" I was like, "Wait, I don't know how I'm getting out of this." Like,
now, to be fair, did you actually make $1 million bet with him?
Mate, for the England, he phoned me up before the England America game, and he said, "Let's make a bet, $1 million." And I was like, "Look, I don't even like England. I don't even like international football. I only like Liverpool. I only like Premiership football. Leave me the fuck alone, Jason." Put the phone down. He took that as I bet him $1 million, and it was 0-0. So England didn't beat USA. So I don't know. Somehow he thought I owed him. I mean, I met him a few years later, and he was in some motorcycle gang in Panyu called Hell's Heroes, and half of them had 150cc. Yeah, but they all had the leathers, and if anyone wanted to join, they had to be a prospect for a year, like people on a scooter. It was fucking crazy. These people were mental. Jason, if you're watching this, really respected you. He's back in North Carolina now. He went home to try and start a chapter of Hell's Heroes in North Carolina. It didn't go well for him, I heard. But he was a really nice guy, really intelligent, just messed up by war, messed up by crystal meth. But as much as I really, really liked him when he had these lucid moments, he was a scary cat. He was a proper scary cat, like.
Yeah, I mean, when you said you knew some American dude from the Carolinas, I thought you were going to mention the dude who ended up on America's Most Wanted list because he molested his daughter, murdered his wife, fled to Mexico, then moved to Shanghai, and then worked as a teacher in Shanghai for 10 years
Yeah, I remember that.
Had
Yeah.
a new Chinese wife, named his Chinese daughter after his wife that he had killed, and then the only way he got caught is one of his former Chinese students had moved to America, and I guess was bored someday and decided to check out America's Most Wanted list, and there he was. She was like, that was my middle school teacher.
Wow.
And now nobody knows what happened to him.
I remember, you know what, the Chinese police could have well took him out. I don't know, but I remember that story. The frightening thing is, Donnie, the longer you get here now, I know a company who will provide fake documents, fake passports, and to get a work visa here, you need a thing from your home country to say that you haven't been what I don't know what it's called.
A police check, a background
police
check.
from your home country. I know a company who will supply a police check that they will guarantee passes the embassy because they've paid someone off in the embassy. Like there must be. I mean, and not just to work in China. These companies can offer it for a lot of Asian companies, and they say, look, you need a work visa for America, we can supply you a police check to go to America. I mean, the scary thing is these people who do shit like this can, if you know the right people, you can go anywhere and do anything you want. It's scary, mate.
So I have a couple more people I want to bring up. These aren't bad people, but this is just a hilarious, absurd story. So you remember the after parties you always used to hold at your apartment, and there were these young Australian kids that used to come by, and they worked at the local theme park. There was some big amusement park in China, and they were all of the stunt guys.
The stunt guys, they were sound lads, them, yeah.
Sound lads, but they would show up at your party and just be doing all sorts of substances, and then be like, all right, I got to go to the park where I'm going to be driving a motorcycle off a ramp through like 5 rings of fire. And every time they'd come by, I'm like, guys, this is not a good idea. You probably have one of the few jobs that if you're not sober, there's like, you could die. I mean,
they were like 18, 19 years old, weren't they? And them Aussies were just living for the moment.
And lo and behold, I think after a while, one of them didn't show up, and I was like, where's that guy? And they were like, he set himself on fire at work. He's in rough shape. He's in the burn unit at the local hospital right now. I think he made a full recovery, but yeah, they ended up having some accidents.
Mate, there was this isn't really a happy thing to say, but the next wave after them, there was a Canadian, there was 2 Canadian guys who came, and they didn't party with me, but I'd seen them out. And they were practicing a dive once, and one of them missed the pool, and from about fucking 30 foot up, hit the side of the pool, and
fuck.
Yeah, so mate, it was a dangerous occupation. They were like French Canadian, and I remember them well. Yeah, the partying and ours had gone by then, but I used to see them out down by the brew and that all the time, Hanyu Brew, and yeah, he missed the side of the pool one day. Gone.
Was this at a theme park as well? Like he was
at the? It wasn't in front of everyone. It was Changlong theme park, but it was for a practice.
Oh yeah.
And I heard that they'd been well. I don't know who's watching this, so I'm just saying this poor lad. It wasn't some of the stuff over here, like the stunt stuff that people do. It's not just teaching jobs or business or stuff. There's a hell of a lot of people doing a hell of a lot of things here, and not everything's totally safe. But yet there was that one guy who didn't make it one day. So
R.I.P.
Didn't mean to bring that down.
No, it's fine. Well, you mentioned
the reality of wanting to come away and make money. So
yeah, you got to take some risks. Well, you mentioned Kevin Spacey was out in Guangzhou with you. We had a local celeb in Shanghai too. Have you ever heard of B2K?
No.
Our
My finger's not on the pulse with all these kids going through.
No, this was like an R&B group that I think was put together by P. Diddy back in the day. Michelangelo, do you know B2K? No. All right, before your time.
Michelangelo, please say no. Please say no.
He didn't know him. He's not much of a celebrity.
My respect for you.
Raz B was a member of this R&B trio, and the group split up a while ago, and somehow he ended up in China. So I used to see this Raz B all over the place, and pretty sure he tried to sell me drugs at some point. He was in China, and it was just hilarious because he did have one hit song when I was in middle school, and then I would just see him at parties in Shanghai all the time. And I saw him performing once at this beer festival, and no one was paying attention, and he was just on stage screaming at the crowd like, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? I am Raz B. Pay a fucking attention." And so that was sad, but hey, I think B2K got back together and he moved back to the US. So round of applause for Raz B.
Well, mate, whoever they are, Raspberry, like fair play, lad, but never. Mate, just bring me to a quick question. What's the coolest place for you, Shanghai or Guangzhou?
Shanghai, I think, as an overall city. You were cooler than a lot of the people I met in Shanghai, but I think as a place to live, my first 5 years in Shanghai takes the cake.
You know, I was in Shanghai just before I went to Thailand, and shite, absolute shite, like doesn't compare. But
well, you also started after COVID. Yeah, it's changed a lot. I'm talking about my first 5 years.
It was just after COVID shut down. So there's nobody there.
COVID was not.
I've never particularly liked Shanghai. Guangzhou's the one for me. Shanghai can fuck off.
The one other story I want to share, I think, could wait until the next episode. Have you done any hilarious whiteface jobs, white monkey gigs?
Yeah, I've done one or two, which could wait till the next episode because, like some of the stuff I've had to do to pretend to be like a college leader, or I know you've done some stuff as well. Maybe we can do this on the next one because I've only got one story about that.
Yeah, we'll do it on the next one, and maybe I can actually. So I have a friend who was hired to be a male gigolo in Shanghai. Maybe I'll see if he's willing to come on the podcast and share that firsthand.
I have a gigolo story actually, but I'll wait for the next one.
Yeah, we'll wait for the next one. It was some random Chinese. Some random Chinese dude.
Me,
no, it was not you, but it was a Chinese dude was finding my friend tutoring gigs just to teach random Chinese people how to speak English. And one time he's like, "By the way, I know you're an English tutor, but I got another gig for you." And that led to him getting hired by a gigolo. So we'll talk about that on the next show. I think now.
Yeah, I know some of your ones. You've been like a plastic surgeon. I've been the head of a college, so we'll have a go down.
Yeah, we'll talk about that on the next show.
Yeah.
Now it's time for Getting Cultured, where we let
Getting Cultured.
So John is here first.
Yes.
So John's going to ask a couple questions, but first I asked Frank the Tank. Do you know Frank the Tank?
Is he the big fat one?
Yes.
Yeah.
So Frank the Tank has never left the U.S. and so I just asked him, "Hey, could you?"
Nice to meet you, Frank.
Yeah, he's not actually here. You will have to meet him in person at some point. I think you guys would get along really well. But
because we're both fat. Like, what's this? Like,
no, I think you guys are both passionate people. So let's see if I can find this. I'm just gonna play it into the mic.
So I'm just any questions about any countries in the world?
Yeah.
All right. Now, what is the difference between Trinidad and Tobago?
Question number 1: what is the difference between Trinidad and Tobago? Can you Google that?
I expected to answer that, seriously.
Yeah. I think they're just two islands directly next to each other that decided to join forces and become the same country. Is that true?
Yeah, mate, I mean, that's Frank the Tank. That's can't be a serious question.
No, it's a serious question. You're gonna love the next one. Wait, but what's the answer to that? Are they two separate countries?
The two separate islands they're just together as they just ganged up on people. So
Okay.
they were like, "Fuck you, Jamaica. We're Trinidad and Tobago. We're having a go at you."
All right. Here's his second question.
Is it me, or does Papua New Guinea look like a brontosaurus?
Okay. I think it actually does. I think.
Mate, Frank is 100% right. Papua New Guinea looks like a brontosaurus, and there is in fact I don't know if you know this. There is in fact every year, once a year, I think it's on March the 31st. They have a dinosaur. What's it called? Like a big festival about dinosaurs because they look like a brontosaurus. So thanks for the question, Frank.
John, do you have some more open-ended questions?
So yeah, I got some random questions here. Let's see which one. Here's one I was going to ask last time. So have you ever had any like major either health scares or like you got really sick in a foreign country, and any experiences with like the foreign healthcare system that were crazy, or is it better? Is it worse? I'm just curious about that.
If anyone wants to look at me or weigh me or anything, you would think, fuck, that man's going to be sick. But I don't know what it is, John. I genuinely 100%. I've lived away from home for 15 years, and I've been to the hospital once when I cracked me elbow. I don't really get sick, but I do know someone who one of his testicles started inflating, and it was an abnormal size when he showed me. And he's like, "What do we do?" I was like, "Well, obviously you go to the hospital." And he's like, "But fuck, it's a Chinese hospital." And he's like, "Oh no, I can't." And he waited and waited, so it went from that size to
I had the same thing happen to me actually.
to this size, and I said to him, like, "Look, you have to go." And the Chinese hospital system is probably a lot like the American system, because back home we have the NHS, but I know you guys have to pay for everything. Or you've got insurance, but not many people have got insurance here. And this guy's one testicle was dropping down his thigh, and it was real, and he just didn't know what to do, and he had to go and get stuff drained, and yeah, it wasn't a good time for him. They had to put a catheter up, and they had to cut his testicle, and I'm sure back home it would have been dealt with a lot easier. But I mean, I had a bump on my elbow once, and they were like, "Oh, you've got to have an operation." And I'm like, "No, look, I know it's just a bit of fluid on my elbow. Drain it." And they're like, "No, you're going to have to come back. You're going to have to be in for 6 weeks. It's going to have to be an operation. It's going to cost you this much money." And I just fucking had a few vodkas and stabbed my elbow with a knife that I've got. And all the fluid drained. And then my elbow was sound, which sound means great. And so I didn't need the hospital. I just needed my own knife that I had this flick knife that I brought back from Thailand once. And that done the job instead of a Chinese hospital. Don't go to a Chinese hospital. Don't do it.
So I would not compare the Chinese system to the U.S. system. And one of the pros
is... in the sense that you've got to pay for it.
But in China, it's actually dirt cheap. That's like the one positive. You're not going to get great care, but my friend broke his arm in China, just showed up at the hospital, zero insurance. They took the x-rays and put a cast on for maybe $200 US. Where if you did that in the U.S. about insurance, that could be like $10,000 US. So it is cheap, but
I'm actually gonna. Well, I mean, I don't know where he went to some shitty clinic, but I got experience of me. My wife's father wasn't well and he was in ICU. And it was 10,000 RMB a day for ICU, which is £1,000, which is like at the time was about $1,500 every day for ICU for 9 months.
Jeez.
So it's not cheap unless you go into a back end place. This was $1,500 a day for 9 months, which long story, but that was like 3 years ago. Still paying that off. Still paying that off now. So you must get some practitioners that are like, oh, I'll do this for this, but some of the hospitals aren't cheap, and some Chinese people go into like Americans. Some Chinese people go into debt for the rest of their lives for some of the most basic medical care, and some of the doctors here, wow. As I say, I solved my problem with a knife.
Yeah.
So
the only time I called the Chinese version of 911, I don't know what it is, but I got food poisoning and I couldn't stop puking to the point where like I couldn't even catch my breath and I had nothing left in my stomach, but it was just bile and I kept on puking. So I called an ambulance and it took the ambulance maybe over an hour to come. And when they finally arrived, I stopped puking. So, but then they're like, hey, we're outside. Like, what's up? So I had to walk out and I was like, I'm not puking anymore, but do you guys just like have any water? And they were like, oh no, we don't have any water. So then just like the ambulance driver just walked me to a store and I bought a Gatorade with my own money. And then I was like, all right, yeah, well, I guess you guys can go. And he was like, okay, and just left. But I wasn't charged. I feel like in the U.S., if you called an ambulance and even if you didn't use it, you would still have to pay for the ambulance, which is insane.
I worked in a school, John, and every school here has like a nurse. And I remember a girl who was in my class. She snapped her finger playing basketball. Like her finger was literally like the other way. And I've ran her to the nurse, and the nurse is like, "Oh, Stephen, do you mind going to the shop, like outside campus, and buying two ice creams, 2 lolly ices?" I'm like, "Why?" She's like, "Because we get rid of the lolly ices, and I can use them 2 pieces of wood as a splint."
That's innovative.
You haven't got a fucking splint for this girl who snapped her finger, and yet the school pays for this nurse, and she's like, "Oh, quick, go and get some ice cream." It's like the place,
MacGyver over here.
Yeah, the place is wild.
She's a modern day MacGyver.
The place is mad.
And then were you the one? Were you the one who had to eat the ice cream and then just hand over the sticks?
I must admit, I quickly and forcibly ate the 2 ice creams. Yeah, the second one I had a bit of brain freeze, so my finger had to wait for a while. Hang on.
Yeah, I think the only other medical crisis I had was food poisoning again, but this time in the Philippines, and had to go to this health clinic that was just a shack, and they said, we need a stool sample so we can see what's wrong. Sent me into the bathroom. I pissed out my ass into a cup, and there was no toilet paper, so then had to just like walk around the clinic being like, all right, here's my fucking stool sample now. Find me toilet paper. And I had E. coli, which is super serious, so I'm glad I went. But they hooked me up to an IV, and the same case with the ambulance. I asked for water. They didn't have water. So I had to get out my wallet and then just like find cash to give them, and they went to a store to get water. I feel like clean water is the one thing a hospital needs.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust this healthcare, John. If you ever got sick, don't go to China. If you ever want a party, come see me. If you ever get sick, stay away.
Yeah, my friend broke his collarbone in China and went to a Chinese hospital. They had to do surgery on it. When he got back to the U.S., it was still hurting. So he went in, and they're like, they did the surgery all wrong. We're going to have to redo it.
Oh, my God.
So he had to get another surgery. And then the running back on the football team I played for, he broke his ankle in a few places in the championship game. Had to take like an hour taxi to this hospital, and he shows up and they're like, ooh, we don't know how to fix ankle bones here. You got to go to a different hospital across the city. We might have time for one more short one, or I don't know if it's.
I got a short one.
Okay, this is a short one. We'll end on that.
Steed, what languages do you speak?
Oh, mate, easy question.
Well,
English,
yeah, I got to follow up.
Scouse,
Okay.
French, and Chinese.
So Chinese. So
You do not speak French.
Je parle français un peu.
sounded French.
I've never heard you say a word of French.
No, I'll tell you, I used to speak French when I was 16. I was quite fluent. But then obviously if you don't go to France much,
Yeah.
then who the fuck speaks French besides French people? So I used to be fluent in French. I'm quite good at Chinese. Like my wife's family, I've actually got at the moment, here's one. I've got the mum, 2 aunties, 2 cousins, a sister, and a niece staying with me for the last 4 days. So my Cantonese isn't the best at all. I only know the swear words, but I can talk to them in Mandarin and they answer me in Cantonese. So my Mandarin's okay. It's not fluent. It's probably a little bit better than Donny's, but
A lot better than mine. You kidding me?
well, it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
But I can get by in France. I speak Chinese, I speak English, and I speak Scouse, which is like Liverpool language.
Okay.
So like 4.
So my follow-up question was about Chinese language. They have like 50,000 characters.
Mate,
So do
like,
I think they've said there's a rule. Yeah, they might have something like that, but if you know 10,000, you can be pretty much fluent.
I was just curious if like people who grow up in China, like do they all for the most part know all of those characters, or is that like a
I mean, they start learning the characters when they're like 2 years old in school.
yeah, but most of them can't pick up a pencil till they're about 4, so it's difficult. So, like for example, in where I am in Guangdong, they speak Cantonese, but every town in Guangdong has their own sort of Cantonese. So my wife's hometown is a little place called Deqing. There's only 1 million people in it, so they speak Deqinghua, which is something similar to Cantonese. But then if you go up to Shanghai, they speak Shanghainese, which is nothing like Cantonese, which is also nothing like Mandarin. So every hometown's got their own language, as well as they all speak Putonghua, which is Mandarin. But as for the characters, I mean, some kids pick it up earlier than others, and I think I don't think it's 10,000. I heard if it's 1,000 characters, you can kind of get through life with knowing 1,000. I know about 10, 15. My cousin, he's on his HSK5. He's basically fluent. He knows like 2,000 or 3,000.
Yeah. Chinese, the language actually, it's not super hard to learn how to speak very basic Chinese. It's the learning how to write and read.
Yeah.
It is
Well, I mean, there's no tenses really. It's not like tomorrow I will go to the park.
All you do is just add the word la after a verb, and it becomes a past tense. So
yeah, it's easy. Like tomorrow I go park. Yesterday I go park le, which means like so. It's not.
yeah.
It's sad. You watch a movie, you watch Big Trouble in Little China, you think you're in trouble. But you're here and you spend a bit of time here. It's not that difficult. So,
Okay.
Well, Steve, thanks for coming on. I'm trying to get 4 of the episodes done, and then I'll start dropping them online. We'll judge the reception. When we'll definitely keep on doing it. I'm just trying to figure out if it's going to be
this
a
was
weekly
the 4th, but I did fuck this one, so this is now the 3rd.
Yeah. But we are going to try to combine the first 2, where I'll be like splicing in moments of you being blackout drunk. It'll be good.
Do you know what I like about you? Alcohol.